for a very special match roundup. We've both just been down to Whiteacres, fishing the Frenzee Festival, and we thought it's a perfect opportunity to get back in front of the cameras and do a roundup of the full week. So we've had a great week, haven't we? Caught plenty of fish.
It's been 10 years for me for a 5-day festival. Obviously I've been down and fished one or two of the silverfish festivals over the last few years, but it's been 10 years for me, so big gap. Really looking forward to it, and it's changed a lot since I was down there. Fish stocks, you know, it's gone a little bit more towards the F1s. There's still some big carp that play a part, but there's definitely, you know, there's only, you've got the blondies now, haven't you, that I've never really come across before. It's a sort of an F1. It's like it's definitely it is an F1, isn't it?
A very golden F1, aren't there? And there's quite a few ghost F1s. There's Carassios, all sorts of fish to catch.
That's right.
I think some of the big weights of old have gone when you used to go. Some of the big carp maybe aren't there.
That's right.
Seems to be plenty of bites to be had.
Yeah, there's some consistent fishing, like always. You know, there's good and bad pegs like there is everywhere. But you know, the pegging is, you know, they've limited, you know, with 120 fishing now instead of 180 because of the COVID restrictions. 6 peg sections. So that also makes it a little bit easier to try, and it also puts pressure on. You've always had to win your section 5 days or at least 4 of the days. I don't know, very rarely have I ever known a festival to be won with 3 section wins a second and a good dropper. So you still need to win your sections at least 4 of the days. And with it being 6 peg sections now, definitely sort of, you feel like it gives you a little bit more fish in your areas. Clink can obviously peg it in a way that it's like, keeps it a little bit fairer. So there's some of the different, some of the changes that from like when I last went down when it was 9 peg sections, and you know, maybe they were spread around the lake a little bit more. So.
And we did get out, had a little practice, didn't we, beforehand? We had a day on Trelawney, and then we had a little bit of a mess about on Twin Oaks, done a little bit of filming.
That's right,
that sort of got you back into the swing of it, didn't it? And
that's right, yeah. We went down to Twin Oaks on the Saturday, didn't we, to do like a little bit of a feature and sort of chucked a bit of a practice in there as well, didn't we? And we noticed there that the carp weren't really playing, were they? Even though we were we scaled everything down, maybe a little bit more spring tactics, but they weren't really playing. So that's also gave us a little bit, you were there first day, weren't you? So that gave you a bit of a lead in. We went on Sunday and had a little go on Trelawney where I was starting on Monday, and I think you gave me a good little workout with my feeder fishing. That was definitely a bit rusty on that, and some nice little tips there for me, which definitely helped during the week. So I was appreciating that. It was good. But yeah, so you started on...
Yeah, first day, Twin Oaks. Actually, last time I went in October, first day was Twin Oaks again, drew the same section, the high numbers side of Twin Oaks, and I was on peg 28, which is a really good peg, to be honest. Really happy with that. The only problem is the wind blows down the lake into 36, and it can make 36 a really, really good peg. But all you can do is go and fish your peg, catch as many as you can, and get the best result possible. And that first day, it's a bit... If you're not going to draw that end peg with a wind in, it's probably the best day to draw anywhere else. Fish have had a rest, they've not seen loads of bait, you're hoping they're going to be hungry. I'm setting my tackle up before starting, those F1s coming in the edge and tailing up and eating, and I'm thinking, well, these are going to feed, they're starving, they haven't been fed for a while, so I started off on worms in the edge. And I caught 3 F1s straight away for probably £11, and when I looked at my phone, there's 5 minutes of the match gone, and I've got £11. And I'm looking behind me thinking, where are the nets? Going to need more nets, but after that it was actually really, really difficult. Like we spoke about, feeder was really important, and I spent basically the rest of the day, it was too windy to fish much else, I spent nearly the rest of the day fishing a feeder, ground bait round it, maggots on the hook, and caught maybe 16 or 17 F1s through the day, which gave me £56.
I know when I spoke to you when after the match, and you said that you were chucking, because on Twin Oaks you've got the gaps, haven't you? And you felt you came out one of the gaps and just started chucking against some of the reeds where dropped in a little bit deeper water, maybe a little bit more cover, and that was a good move.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I had a gap maybe this wide of mud bank, and it's obviously a bit shallower then, and that's where I chucked it, obvious spot. I caught an odd and wasn't really right, and I come away, chucked it to my left in front of some grass and some reeds, bit more depth, bit more cover, and it was never brilliant, but I nicked an odd fish. I finished up £56. I think £35 was next in my section, maybe £30 actually, so enough for a section win. Perfect start.
Yeah,
and you started off.
That sort of like sets the tone for the week as well. Little things like that. You know, you came back that and said that to me in the evening, and I'd actually found that where I started on Trelawney. You know, even though we caught really well on practice in the shallow water, the tighter you could catch, the more accurate you were. You know, definitely was. You know, just your tip just kept flying around, didn't it, in practice? But come the day, the fish for me had just dropped slightly. I mean, I'm only talking a foot or two, but maybe 18 inches, 2 foot. A little bit deeper water.
Yeah, from the bank, maybe this far off the bank instead of tight to the mud. Little things like that just sort of set the tone on a festival. You're fishing for 5 days and you're trying to pick up the little things within the fishery, how it's fishing, and like taking that to your next match. And you know, I know when you went to Python, we'll talk about it, you felt you had to drop just into slightly deeper water again, just to keep them fish ticking over. Yeah, just definitely. Little things like So I went to Trelawney. You started off on what peg? Where did you draw?
24 on Trelawney. It's a peg I've drawn a couple of times before, but again, going back, it was a little bit more carpy then. And you said to me in the morning that, you know, if you was going to catch a carp in that section, that was one of the pegs, maybe 23, 24. So I was thinking of maybe starting on a straight leaded meat, but I decided to kick off on the ground bait feeder. And
that was a ground bait method feeder.
Ground bait method feeder, that's right, yeah. And slow start. You know, I wasn't expecting as slow a start as it was, but it was slow for many. I got Andy Bennett a couple of 2 or 3 pegs up. Andy set off on the pole. I think he was going to go down that route. I think he'd practiced on it the day before and caught really well on the pole. Wind was going to hamper him, I felt. You know, it was definitely a windy day for presentation. Spoke to him afterwards and it did. But so I sort of like kept with the feeder, and it was like what you said. Definitely another good tip was basically, you know, keep fishing it. 1 or 2 people maybe come off it, start looking at other things, and that just gives you that little bit of, you know, you get that response then, don't you? So if you're the only one you're chucking, that's right, you're the only one chucking.
Basically.
That's right, yeah. And that's so after an hour I got 2 fish, and then the next 40 minutes I think I had something like 8. So it got me like a decent start. And the wind was getting up, it was getting stronger. Them first couple of days where we had them winds, didn't we? Them first couple of days, them 30, 40 mile an hour winds with odd gusts. But I kept, you know, setting my lines up to fish pole. Never going to neglect them. I was just throwing little bits of meat in short. Went a little bit further, potted a little bit of ground bait and worms in as well to cover myself on that if the meat wasn't going to work. But I wanted to stay on the feeder. But halfway through, excuse me, I thought I'd actually it was going to get stronger and stronger. Then all of a sudden it just hit a brick wall and I couldn't catch. Kept going, but it didn't. But it stopped for everybody. So it was a case then of just an odd 1 or 2 fish out the blue, and eventually I've come short with the meat. Last hour and a quarter, just feeding 2 or 3 bits, set up the 2 lines. I've gone just at the bottom of the near shelf, and then I've also just come another line, which is top kit with 2 and top kit with 1, basically straight in front of each other. And them 2 lines have probably had 9 or 10, 12 fish in that last hour and 90 minutes. I've had to rest them. I've had to go back on the feeder just to rest it, even though I didn't catch anything. It needed that little bit of rest. And you come back on and you catch one straight away. If you caught one straight away, you'd probably get another one. If you had to wait for that first one, you're probably better off and go into another line maybe. Yeah. And that's basically, and I ended up with 66 pound, 65 pound I weighed, 66 pound won the lake. I won my section with a 65 pound. Andy was second with 45 pound. 64 pound was third on the lake, so it's 64, 65, 66, so it was really tight. Is it Brad Hoskins? Brad
Hancock.
Brad Hancock and Trigger, Craig Edmonds. Yeah. So we were first, second and third, really tight, only a couple of pounds splitting us up. But it got me off to a good start, section win. Yeah, I mean, so that was the start I was looking for.
Perfect start for us both, section win on the board. And that was it, just exactly the start we wanted. Plus all the information coming back afterwards, which again I find really important. We had a good chat afterwards. Barry also stopping with us. Everything's important, you know, to try and get a picture of it, all that information. Little things here and there, massive help, aren't they?
Of course they are, yeah. So day 2 for you, Trelawney?
Yeah, on to Trelawney, obviously. Real advantage for me there because I was following you around the lakes, so I had a real good understanding of sort of how the lakes were fishing, how the lakes were responding. Yeah. And I drew peg 5 on Trelawney, which isn't great to be honest. It can be a really poor area, but with the way the sections are, I'm in with pegs 1, 2, 4, myself on 5, and then there's 2 on the other bank on, I think, 31, 32.
Yeah.
So, although I'm on a bad peg, the whole section's not great. 1 can be good, 32 can be good, but they're not brilliant, so you feel like you're in with a little bit of a chance.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, we'd had that little bit of a practice on there.
Yeah.
You'd been on there the previous day. Feeder was really good. Windy again, so I was really confident in that feeder approach.
Yeah.
I was going to fish meat short, again, like we spoke about, but I also felt being in a hard area, I couldn't just rely on fish being on that short line or being out against the island. So I decided to just loose feed a few 4mm pellets down the middle of the lake and hopefully target some of the Carasio that are in there.
Yeah.
They're not very big, sort of 10 ounce to a pound.
Yeah.
But I felt like it'd get me some bites. I fished at 13 metres. Would have liked to have fished a bit further, to be honest, but the wind was so bad. I battled at it with that long line above my float. I've had sort of 3 number 8 barrel shot above my float to hold on to, try and keep my rig in position, because you need to fish a light float for them Carasio, fish it sort of through the water a little bit. So I needed a bit of weight behind it to just control it.
I know when we spoke, I mean, afterwards, and you said you'd caught on it, and literally we're lifting up on, they weren't even dragging the float under, were they? Or lifting up on nothing bites, weren't you?
Thinking something was wrong.
Yeah.
So I started off on the feeder, and I think my first 3 casts saved 3 F1s.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, you only had 2 fish first hour the day before. I thought 3 casts in, 3 fish, maybe a few here. And I think I got to 7 after an hour, and I went half an hour without a bite. So I thought, right, let's try and get on them Carasio. Dropped in, went under first cast, well, didn't go under, done something, and I picked up and there's 1 on. And I've actually had a really nice day. I caught odd Carasio on that all the time. I put it down now and again because the wind got that bad, I just couldn't hold it. I chucked a feeder again. I think I maybe caught another 3 fish on that. And then I've dropped on my meat short with an hour to go, not had a bite, dropped on it again, sort of half an hour ago, not a bite. Last 20 minutes it went under and I've got 4 F1s on that. Yeah. So I've had a real nice day. I've got them few F1s on the feeder, a few on the short pole for maybe £20, I would think. Yeah. And then probably a 35 to 40 Carasio on the long pole for £27. Yeah. Really happy. Section, I was really happy with that from there because I've had £47. Yeah. I think peg 2 was second. Peg 1, was second with £22. Yeah. So really happy. I pegged that. It can all go wrong from. Yeah. Learnt loads of little bits from what you'd said about the feeder, about the meat short. Real light feeding on that meat short line. Regular casting on the feeder. Again, ground bait round it. Yeah. Maggots on the hook. And one thing that was really important on the feeder is getting your ground bait mix right. And obviously you've used your Blake's mix you used. I've used my Sonu mix. But it's not just what's in your mix. It's having it mixed right. We need it to go in nice and hard, break down quick. Single maggot on the hook, and it just got you some bites. And then with that bit of info I'd got off you, obviously different area of the lake, not quite as strong an area. That pellet line was really good for them Carasio. Just put a few fish in the net, keep me ticking over. And brilliant second day. So 2 days in, 2 section wins, and right on target for where we needed to be. Yeah. And you were then obviously on Jenny's 17.
Yeah. It's not an area that I fished a lot, to be honest with you. There's always. But I know I spoke to you before and you said there was 1 or 2 fish to be had on the pole line. We spoke about it the night before, didn't we? Either side of the pipe, 17 and 18. There'd be some fish there short. It was a second day, it was really windy. We got 30 to 40 mile an hour winds again. As you know, Jenny's really catches it. Shallow lake, tow was really, absolutely pumping up, back up the other way. So presentation was difficult.
Look at him behind us.
And peg 16 had been quite dominant the day before, but the rest of the section was quite fair, even though you've got some end pegs. There was 40, 50 pounds. A little bit of an awkward one was the fact that we'd actually got 1 angler that had not turned up or not drawn or whatever it was, and also we were 1 short in our group, so it actually left us with a 4 peg section on this particular day. And so I got 16 in, got the feeder chuck. Roy was on that peg.
He's chucking to the aerator there.
Chucking to the aerator.
Non-Carasio sort of holding area.
Won the section the day before. It actually won that late, not the full late prizes with Python, but he won with Python on that one. But I got the 2 lads either had got the end pegs as well, so there had only 4 of us. There was us 2 in the middle and then we got 2 end pegs, so I was concerned that they were going to do some damage down the edge as the day went on. Plus, because I couldn't fish long pole with corn or pellets or whatever was going to fish on pole, I was limited to fishing short. We spoke about what other option we got. We fished straight lead and corn, we did that just to cover it maybe. But obviously then I got the feeder chucked to the island, which was sort of really, again, was going to be me, hopefully was going to be my bread and butter fish throughout the day. Roy's gone straight out against the aerator, and I think he's had a dozen before any other three of us have had a bite. So
what were they caught? Were they them Caraccios?
Caraccios, yeah. I think he's fished a scoop feeder. Whether it was, I think he was fishing ground bait with a few pellets, not quite sure, but it was definitely a scoop feeder. Chucking it really nice and accurate, really good. And even though there were only a pound and a quarter, you know, it was 15, 18, 20 pound in front of us before we've even started. And to be honest, that was a pattern of the day. Roy's just like gone away from us, and we were just basically fishing for second, which after probably 3 hours, I probably was second, even though I wasn't catching a great deal, but I was second.
Just ticking along,
just ticking over, yeah. And it was all about going to be the short line, but I was always worried. Bez was on the end peg. I'm not quite sure the name of the gentleman to my right, but and then with 2 hours to go, they started catching down the edge, and to be honest with you, they've come past me. I wouldn't say by a lot, but they definitely came past me. And with 30 minutes to go, I was dead and buried, but I didn't know where to be honest with you, I was stuck. I felt as if it carried on as it were, I was gone. I was going to be last in the section. So, and I hadn't really caught anything on the feeder for 2 hours, and I just chucked it back over in a little bit of desperation, even though I was catching an odd fish on the meat short, but it wasn't strong enough to compete with what the two lads were doing on the end. And I chucked the ground bait feeder back over again, and it's just gone round every chuck with a Carasso on. I was like chuffed to bits with that. It just kept me in, but I still felt as if I was like up against it too. And I know there was 8 minutes to go, and I thought I'll just gamble now. Probably going to catch another 4 out there, which was probably going to give me £5 or £6, £5 maybe with the size of them. And I thought so I gambled, and I came short. Top kit with one on over my meat line, and I know I caught skimmer first chuck, 8 ounce, and then I've had a £4 F1. And then I've had 3 pound blondies. That was a cracking fish. And then I've had 2 more nice skimmers, couple of roach, and it was just, I couldn't get in quick enough.
Suddenly caught
so
10, 12 pound.
Yeah, exactly. And it sort of gave me a bit of hope at the scales. Didn't feel as if I was like, you came up, and I said I could be last, I could be second, but I thought at least one was going to beat us. I felt Bez was probably going to beat me. And as it happened, Roy's won the section, he's won the whole late prize, he's had £90, fished a lovely tidy match. And then the lad to my right's weighed maybe 50 something pounds.
50, 52,
yeah,
53.
I've weighed 68, 66, no, I had £66, that's right. I had £66, and then Bez on the end, he's had £63. So then meat fish and then Carasso fish just got me over the line for a second. So, but yeah. First and a second, you hope that that's going to be your drop result.
Yeah.
So yep, kept me in the play.
I just think with that, it's sort of, that's the fine lines in festivals, isn't it? You just manage to sneak a second, but when you've got a runaway leader, obviously you want to just keep ahead of everyone else, best of the rest. Yeah. Use that as, like you say, hopefully a drop result, but a second for a top 10 is not a disaster. You can count that. Sure. So we're both going into the third day, coming out with the second day, 2 section wins and a first and a second. So really solid start for us both. Coming on to day 3, and I'm obviously following you again, going to Jenny's and Python, and you were heading to the mighty Bellingy.
Yeah, always a venue I look forward to. Pegging's changed, and I drove over there early because obviously we've got like the sort of recorded draw now. Clint puts it out at 8 o'clock, 8:15, and I headed over there and sort of like wanted to get all my tackle sorted out over there, give me a good opportunity to give myself more time at my peg and get my bait sorted. Big thing for me, like at Bellingy, you're limited to your baits. It is a big thing. And on the way over I drew peg 23, which I had heard it was the bridge peg, and the last time I was there I was actually on peg 27, which was the bridge peg. So I obviously got some good history there with it. I had a good weight off that last time I was on there, and so I knew the lines that I was wanting to catch on, but it was down to bait choice, which is always going to be. And it was the first day that the wind had settled, did calm down. It literally dropped to like nothing. It was off my back, and it was absolutely red hot. Sun had come out, and it was like, felt like I think it was 18 degrees. It really had gone nice. Day. It was gorgeous. But then there was people talking about the air pressures, and but obviously, some of the locals, where to target on that peg, because you've got so many options. You've got the bridge, you've got a mud bank on the far side with 1 or 2 stumps coming out, and then you've got the margins down the edge. You've got your short line. Last time I was on it, it was a really simple match. Left the bridge, it was just basically cross against the mud line and short, and it was the bait thing for me was like, I found really awkward. I sat in the car park for 40 minutes. Everybody that I had asked about it and came over, and they'd all tell me something a little bit different. But I've settled on, I think it was 5 micros. I know they double up a little bit when you've got some water and soak them up and everything. Big handful of maggots, handful of corn, some 6 mils, and you got your worms as well. So sort of went down the micros route, which was basically, people were telling me to go down that route. Don't want to, and I thought the peg would be good enough on the day. Just whatever I took, I thought would be enough. But what I didn't want to do was take a bit of everything and then get caught out on the bait that you actually needed. So even if I took slightly the wrong bait, I thought this peg would still be strong enough. And I've set up all the lines and everything, and to be honest with you, the match never ever kicked in. I've not even had a bite down the edges, which is the number one areas of the peg. Even Andy, who owns the fishery, came down just before the start of the match. He said, you won't have to go past here. Top kit with 2-ons, literally the furthest you'll have to go, and I've not had a bite there all day. But again, I just put it down to the weather, and literally gone flat calm, high pressure, and it was just knocked it stone. And after probably about an hour and 40, hour and 50, I think I got 1 fish. And I've gone down into the deep water on maggots, just kindled a few maggots in with a few micros, and I caught 4 in 4 chucks. And I was surprised as anything, like catching them in deep water. And then I thought, well, is this thing going to keep going? So I was like looking for a similar sort of like a rest line, and it did slow up, and I went somewhere else, never caught it, went back to it, and all I could catch were eels, which I was like shocked with. I had 4 eels in like the next 25 minutes, and I went back to it 20 minutes later and had another 2 eels. So literally so that just sort of took me into the last 45, 50 minutes where I'd literally still got the same. I got 4 carp and half a dozen eels, and I still couldn't catch anything. There was an odd fish starting to move in the edges, but never, if you even just went over the top of them, it just never even budged, never even had a bow wave away, which sometimes can happen. So I sort of went across back over on the far side. I sort of big potted, I was in a bit of desperation, to be honest with you, and that was it brought a fish in. I seen it tail up, and I went on it. I didn't put a kinder pot on or anything. I just went in with my rig, bunch of maggots. It flew under, got one, and then that was sort of the pattern to the end. And I think I've had 8 or 9. It was just a rush finish. It was like a mad rush finish, and that got me to 89 pound. And I knew the lad opposite were going to beat me. As you said, my section was all on that far side where the wind was just sort of, even though they were light, there was a little ripple over there, and it makes a big difference, just even days like that, just that little ripple. They've all had, the lad opposite me who's actually gone on and won the section with 113 pound, he's caught down the edge late on as well, but he had a few fish prior to that, which so he was the one. And then Bez again, right down the bottom. Bez was in my section all week. Bez was down the bottom. That's where they were going to start weighing in, but Bez had got one on when the whistle's gone, and they were going to start weighing in. So they've had to weigh everybody in, including myself. And then Bez was going to weigh in last, and I was second in the section. Once I'd weighed everybody in and myself, and they went back to weigh Bez in, and I beat him by 2 ounces. Oh. So even though I was knocking them eels, they were actually they were important. So 2 ounces, second in the section again, first and 2 seconds. You know yourself, you need your section wins, but again, I didn't feel like there's much more he could have done from there. And it was sort of a mixed day, disappointing, but glad to come off with second.
Still just about clinging on to a top 10 finish.
Exactly, yeah. You're thinking, got 2 days still to go, 2 more section wins, and you still gives you a chance of getting that top 10 or a higher finish. So, yeah, so it wasn't a disaster, but it wasn't obviously the last time I'd previously been on it. There was £140 off it the day before, so I was sort of probably got my hopes up a little bit. They were going to catch a big weight, but yeah. So you were on. You were following me?
Yeah, jennies and python. Unfortunately, this time I didn't have your knowledge from the day before because I drew Python Lake, which obviously you've been on jennies. Drew a brilliant peg 21, which is end peg. Wind blowing up that way, even better. And then, unbelievably, there's an undrawn peg in the section, peg 24 next to me. So I've literally got half of the lake to myself. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm not really quite sure what I'm going to do, but I should be catching loads of fish, loads of broom. I had a little chat with Paul Christie, who won the lake on Monday at the other end of the lake. He'd caught on hard pellets at 5 metres. And I basically went with some hard pellets and some maggots. And that was it. A few micros in case I needed them. So I had my 4 pints of maggots, which was as many as I was allowed. A few micros, a few 4 mils. Nice and easy. Started off, top kit in 2, where Paul had caught. Hard pellets, 10 minutes in, not had a bite. I thought, oh dear. So shipped across to the island. And I've actually fished maggots across there because I've just felt like if I fished pellets, I'd catch these little Carassios, small fish. I wanted to target proper F1s. So I fed maggots across there. And to be honest, from that point on, I've had a pretty simple day.
Didn't look back, did you?
Fished in about 2.5 foot of water. Caught steady to start with. I've probably caught 30 pound in the first 2 hours. Few roach problems. Give it an odd big pot, which seemed to get rid of them. And to be honest, the real changing point was I caught a few, then I got roached out and I thought, right, I'll just try hard pellets. And I went and fished hard pellets to my left to a point on the island. And I caught a couple, foul-hooked a couple. It wasn't right. Went back where I had big potted my maggots, got another really good run, and I thought, why don't I just feed maggots on them both? So I big potted some on this line, back on this one, caught a few, went back towards that one and got a really, really good run then. So 15 in 15 chucks. And to be honest, that was it.
What's the big pot in? Is it just an handful, or is it?
Third of a 250 ml pot, probably. Decent volume, probably 3 of my kinder pots full. Simple day after that. Switched between the 2 lines, caught an F1 basically every chuck.
Light rigs, or did you fish a little bit?
I fished all 13 main line to help cut through the wind a bit, give me good presentation. 4x10 float. 011 hook length and a size 18 101. So nice and fine. 10 to 12 hybrid elastic.
Beautiful.
And I just kept shipping them back really. 15 minutes to go, ran out of maggots, dropped in where I'd actually took some meat with me. I never mentioned that, in my pint of meat. Dropped in where I've chucked my meat short last 15 minutes and caught another 6 or 7 big F1s.
Lovely.
Finished up with probably 80 fish. 123 pound, which I was told afterwards is a lake record since the lake's been redug, so that's a nice little bonus. Another section win.
That lake's definitely going to be one for the future as well, isn't it?
I think it'll be brilliant.
Everybody's noticed it. I mean,
it reminds me very much of Bonsai Lake at Lindholm when it was first dug and just full of fish. It's going to be brilliant.
They've just
really
put
good
some
already.
More fish, haven't they? They've just was it canal that they had emptied? And
a lot of fish from canal have gone in there. So finished up 123 pound. Obviously, new lake record, lake win, 3 section wins, and then now sort of
2 days to go. You can start now. I think you can get a little bit excited.
Can win the festival. I'm in with a chance. I'm in pole position going into day 4. So great third day for me. Not quite as great as you wanted yours to be, but kept you in touch with the top 10. I think you were 8th maybe going into day 4. So both in a good place.
So day 4, Bellingy for you, and Pollowin for me. I know somewhere that I know you really like Bellingy, don't you?
Yeah, I love
Especially if you can get a nice feeder peg. I know it's like quick, but I know you can fish all the methods there. But if you can get a feeder chuck,
I love it.
Gives you a good option.
Such a good lake, massive hard fighting carp. They really like to feed, respond to some bait. Just love going there. So obviously that's the one day of the festival. It's almost got a bit of magic about it, hasn't it?
You're
heading to one of the country's very best carp lakes. So really lucky at the draw. Drew peg 12, lovely peg, great feeder peg. So I've got that option.
Peg, what is it now?
18.
Old peg 18.
They've all shifted a little bit, but about old peg 18, sort of halfway along the island, just before the gap in the island really. I think that's on 14. So great peg. And bait choice, like you said, bait choice can be a bit complicated there, but I had it really easy, to be honest. I had that feeder chuck. I took 6 pints of micros and I took some corn, and that was it. That was me. Feeder, edge, and I've chucked it in at the start. Plenty of bait around my feeder, regular cast, get some bait and get them fishing and competing. And I've chucked it slightly to my right where I felt like I could get really tight to the bank. Or not really tight, because there's still a few bits, but that's where I could get closest to the bank. Shallow water. First cast, waiting for it to go. never went, wound in, casting again. I've probably had 16 or 17 casts and not had an indication. And I thought, oh dear. Turned around slightly to my right, chucked it in front of some black brambles, sinking my line, rod's nearly been pulled out my hand.
So
got
again,
one first cast.
Going back to the other day,
back into deeper water, so not only the F1s responded like that, obviously the carp as well.
Yeah.
And I had then a steady sort of 3.5 hours, I would say.
Yeah.
Caught £80.
I know you said how important it was. You were literally clipping the brambles where that little bit deeper was. Them brambles.
Yeah, obviously.
If you didn't clip it on the way in, it was like
you just didn't get a bite, and it was.
Yeah. Were you having to wait for bites, or
every bite come as I sunk my line.
Right.
I never got my rod on the rest if I got a bite. Put it on my rest, sit there a minute or two, not get a bite, wind in, chuck it back in, round. And I've not caught loads on it, but probably caught £80, maybe 16, 17 carp.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So nice fishing. At that point, I'm looking about and I feel like I'm well ahead of everyone. And then next peg starts catching down the edge, and he's probably caught 7 or 8, and they're massive, great big, obviously totally different fish what you catch against an island to in the edge. I was thinking he's catching me up, and he got another one. Time to come in the edge. I've had to go in the edge. Not a bite. Potted some in again. Not a bite. Thinking, chucked it back out again. Got another carp on the feeder. He's got another 2 now, and I'm thinking something needs to happen. 50 minutes of the match left. Big potted, gone straight in, single grain of corn, straight under, got one. I've got 5 in 5 chucks, probably 20 minutes, and I've got 5 carp. Brilliant, caught him back up, just edged ahead. And then they went a little bit funny, tried my right edge, never got one, potted it again, and I caught another 2.
Right.
So I've had that run, I've had 5 in 5 chucks, caught another 2. Guy next to me's caught another couple, and I felt like I was just ahead.
Yeah.
Bit different on Bellingy, obviously we've been fishing light lines, like in the edge on Bellingy, or 21, or 19 hook length, 16 to 18 hybrid elastic. So when they came in that 20 minutes and I caught 5, I'm then thinking I want to got another net, thinking to myself I can catch another 50, 60 pound, got the gear on to pull them, I'm going to get them in quick. It's never quite worked out, and I caught obviously 5 in 5 chucks, then another 2. And that was my match really, so I finished up with them carp that I've caught down the edge, few on the feeder, and I weighed in 134 pound, I think I had. Yeah. Next peg with them fishes caught down the edge, he probably had 6 or 7 less fish than I had, 121 pounds. Wow. So it wasn't a million miles behind. You're
talking 2 fish,
one fish the size of what he was catching.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe he had 15 for 120 pounds, 40.
So all them little decisions in the middle of the match.
That one when I chucked the feeder out, and just little things. Lake actually.
Resting lines. I mean, sometimes when you go to Bellingy, you know, I'm not saying you never rest lines, but you're looking all the time to try and make. You know, you're looking for that big run all the time, aren't you? Being really positive. Where this festival, you've just felt as if you've had to sort of just sit back every now and again.
To be honest, I don't think it was so much about resting lines. That on that feeder, it was you've got to keep casting it, keep fishing, because it's almost like the homing on the noise, and you get your bite as soon as you cast in. Yeah. And if you come off it, you're almost wasting the chance of catching one. Yeah. So it was a case of just going through the motions, and I couldn't do a lot else because I didn't have the bait to do a lot else. And just stuck with it. And the lakes actually fished really hard. So that £134 was not only enough to win my section again, but it was enough to win the lake again. So 2 lake wins in a row. Brilliant. And I'm now going heading to the last day, 4 section wins.
Leading the.
Put myself in a great spot. So
absolutely.
Yeah. And you had a really great day 4, didn't you?
Following 22, which was a really good draw on the day. It won the section. Probably if you wanted a peg that you wanted a section win, that was probably the peg on the lake to draw.
And you're in with pegs, I think 24, 13.
24, 13. 24 15, wasn't drawn again. It was a kid that 16, there was a no-show. So again, I had a little bit of luck there. And then I was in with 1 or 2 pegs on the high bank, which
13,
was fishing
15,
difficult.
16, 17.
Which was fishing difficult. So £40 had won the section off the same peg off the day before. 20 odd pounds as backup. So it was a really good peg for the section. I was really happy. And I spoke to 1 or 2 people. I can reach the island on that peg on 22. You have got open water to go to. You've got a feeder chuck going over towards the high bank island.
Sorry, just to interrupt there. I think that's one thing about that peg. You've got so many options, haven't you? And it's easy, to be honest, to get a little bit lost. And I know the way you fish, you'll have set up for everything, won't you?
Yeah, to try and cover everything and then try and like reduce it down as the match goes on and try and make the right decisions. Always like the maybe rigs just in case, you know, always gone down that path. So, you know, I like to have them there anyway. But yeah, kicked off against the island. I thought I'd try and keep it as simple as possible. Kicked off against the island, tapped some 4mm pellets in. probably after 5 or 6 minutes, got a response, but fishing in 2'6". I also set another rig up at 3 foot, plumbed around the island. 16 metres, you're coming away from the island, but you're still on the slope. So I think I got 3'6" against the point of the island, and I just swung round more against the island, and I got the wind off my back, which was making it nice. It gave me the option of being able to just ping 1 or 2 4 mils over if kindering was a little bit too tight. And I got a little start, probably 3 or 4 of them, like, again, fish that I'd never really caught on there before. They're like 12 ounce pound and a quarter fish now.
Yeah.
Little ghosties, little mirror ghosties, little common ghosties, whatever they are.
Yeah, ghost F1s, I think.
Is that what they are? Yeah. Ghosty F1s are there. But then, after probably 40 minutes, I started foul hooking 1 or 2 fish. And unless I laid my rig in, I was only fishing little 4x10s, 6 number 11s, so I was only fishing quite light anyway. Opened my shots up, laid it in, and started picking up 1 or 2 fish, but then it was just foul hooking in, so I was just kindering it. Sort of took a decision then to get my casters out. I was like, from the day before at Bellingy, I wish I'd got some casters at Bellingy just to ping round this stump. When I look back at it, it was not a good option. And I thought when I went down in the morning, I took all my other bait back, and I went and got some casters. I just thought the peg was strong enough to be able to just ping casters against the island and fish shallow. So again, I set all my shallow rigs up, just some nice little F1 rigs, a little bit longer lines, because it's clear, as you know at the moment, and it's very clear, Match Lake is. And probably took 50 minutes. I took that decision after probably an hour and 20 minutes, and then I've just fished shallow. I just started to fish shallow, 16 metres, just coming off about, I don't know, probably 2 foot off the far bank at that, and probably into like 3 foot of water. Weren't pinging many, just a dozen to 20. It probably took 50 minutes to really start catching a few. It was that clear. I just think it was like the bait that was going in, eventually it'd stir it up enough for them to actually get a little bit of confidence up in the water and stay in your peg instead of just odd bites. I get an odd little way late in, so getting an odd one, and it just got stronger and stronger as the day went on. And last hour I've had 1 or 2 of them blondies again that have come in the peg. You could see them, you could target them, you were like sort of mugging them, even though you were fishing and feeding. You could actually mug them. And I've ended up with £109, which again won my section. I think again it was like a £30 was second in the section, and second on the lake. Brad Hancock. So I keep saying Hoskins, don't I? Yeah, Brad Hancock. He weighed £150, which.
Both great weights for poloing these days, aren't they?
Yeah, fished back on himself from peg 20. I think he was fishing back to 21 or wherever he was fishing. Couldn't see where he was fishing, but he was catching some huge fish. Fish up to nearly £20. I think he weighed one at just short of £18. So they had a great weight, £150. Second on the lake. Yeah. Got a section win, so again that gave me two section wins, 2 seconds, and that actually put us. Yeah. First and second overall, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, coming into the last day.
I know you were surprised that put you in a really good position with 1 or 2 of the other results out there. But as you know, them festivals can be a little bit misleading in the overall table. Somebody could have 3 section wins and a last in the section, which then he could be sat in 15th, 16th, 17th. But if he gets another section win, then obviously,
up the table.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so there's 1 or 2 people there which we knew that were. Still could get 3 or 4 section wins in a second, so even though I was lying second, it was a slight false position, but if I got a section win on my last day, I was going to still give myself a good chance to stay in that top 5, possibly depending on results. But yourself going into that last day, 4 section wins is not a better feeling. And I think you got a cushion, and you had a sort of cushion as well. You'd worked it out. Third, and I think you were.
I was guaranteed a win.
Yeah, you got your weight advantage as well. You'd had some good weights, winning lakes, so you must have been buzzing for that last day.
Yeah, that's it exactly, and a real strong position for us both coming into the last day, first and second in the festival. Ideally, that's how we'd like to finish.
The only one thing which was a little bit disappointing was I was looking at the pounds on the fireplace. I was having us like pounds on the day, pound coins on the day, and I was lying second in the festival and he got all of them. How does that work?
That's how it goes sometimes, isn't it? Look at the draw, I suppose. Okay, so 5th and final day, both in a great position going into the last day. First and second in the festival, exactly how we were hoping it'd stay. I was heading off to Pollowin, you to Twin Oaks, and both of them actually have the potential as sort of a make or break day, because they can be difficult.
Yeah, my wheels have fell off at Twin Oaks a few times, so I was sort of apprehensive, to be honest with you, but still some good pegs to be drawn in there.
Yeah, of course he is. And where did you draw?
Peg 33, which wasn't where I wanted to be, that is for sure. Middle of the section, you'd been in that section and won the section first day.
Yeah,
28
I was on, yeah.
And I got Brad Hancock's.
Yeah.
Got it right this time, Brad. And I got Chris Kitchen on the MPEG 36, which two anglers, you know,
catch a few fish.
I was up against it, to be honest with you. Before we even started, I felt as if I was over. I looked at the sheet from the day before, £8 had come off it the day before. I think Johnny Arthur had a struggle on it. Also the day before that, you know, how good as Johnny's. And so I felt like I was up against it. Felt like I was wanted to give myself some sort of option with give myself a chance of possibly winning. The only way I could probably was maybe a cast a shallow approach or something like that, but I wasn't sure, to be honest with you. I didn't feel it was very clear.
Not fishing well enough.
Didn't feel like it. The other problem I felt like I got as well, my gap on the far side was really awkward, because where the bank had fell in, you could actually see like a big plate of mud there. So I hadn't really got a chuck to the far side. There was one little bucket hole, little nasty little wing coming across.
And it's under a bit of a tree that I drew it last year, and it was a very awkward cast.
That's right, yeah. I'd actually got a nice little margin peg. I got some roots sticking up top, keep with one on, that was giving me a little bit of cover down the edge, and there was like past it, the other side of it, there was like a nice little shelf to fish against. Picked up on what you had said from the first day. I potted, big pot down the edge, had them two straight. Didn't see no signs of any fish, but I had two straight away off it on a bunch of maggots. And so that got me off to a decent little start. Again, there were them proper big F1s, you know, 3 to 4 pound fish.
Massive on that lake.
Again, I looked at my I didn't have your 12 pound, but I had my 8 pound after 5 minutes. And then I've kicked off on the feeder. I've had 2 or 3 fish on that, but I've had to drop short, and kept going into, it didn't land right, didn't get that lovely little plop that you want with that feeder, that little method feeder, and it was like, this didn't feel right. So I just came short, didn't feel right, and maybe that's why the peg's not been producing as some of the other pegs around them, I'm not sure, but I kept, so I didn't ping meat long because of the wind. It was one thing I wanted to do, so I had to keep stopping and going out and just kindling a little bit of meat out there. Wanted to try and set that up. That was going to be like my sort of bread and butter line maybe during the middle of the match. Just going to accept whatever I caught, maybe 1 or 2 skimmers, which is basically how it went really. I caught 1 or 2 skimmers, 1 F1 out there, some decent skimmers. They were up to 2 pound, but I was miles behind with 90 minutes to go, miles behind. Chris Kitchen was admitting to 50 pound after an hour and a half. I might have had 15 pound. Bez to my left again. Bez was in my section again. He was catching 1 or 2 fish down the edge. He was catching 1 or 2 fish on the feeder. Brad was catching on the feeder. I think he was admitting to 45, 50 pound also. So them sort of two, him and Chris were catching. They were sort of fighting it out. Brad was desperate to win his section because he got a chance of getting 4 section wins. And then I've come in down the edge. I've gone into the shallower water down the edge. It was probably 18 inches, 2 foot. Caught a couple. And then I just didn't feel like I was going to get that run there. It just didn't feel deep enough. It just didn't feel like there was enough cover there. So a little gamble. I went just over the edge of these like roots that were there. And there was probably an extra foot towards. Only a top kick with like a short 4.
Yeah.
And I sat there for 10 minutes and I thought it was a bad decision. It shot under, just disappeared. And I think I've had a dozen there in the next 45 minutes, which put me right back. I mean, even Brad was shouting down to me and saying, "What you got now? What you got now?" So don't seem like a flappable kid, but he was shouting down. So I thought, I must be getting close to him now, And I looked at me watching. There were 15, 20 minutes to go, and I thought, another 2 or 3, 4 fish. Chris had slowed up on the end as well. And I thought, just keep at this rate, you never know. And then all of a sudden it just died on me.
Not another bite.
Not another bite. I couldn't believe it. I was a bit gutted actually. I think I had 1 more actually, just out of the blue, but I was getting no signs all of a sudden, no signs, no nothing. And I didn't really I didn't big pot it or anything like that, which was another option. I just thought, because when they were there, it was instant, it was really quick. And can't quite remember how many fish I ended up with. I've ended up with 58 pound. Brad's weighed 71 and won the section, just nicked Chris, who's had 69 pound. So them two was really close. Brad was chuffed to bits with his 71 pound, which you're going to be, because that gave him 4 wins. But he had that blowout on Bellingy, which weren't going to trouble you so much, but unless you know how your result went. But that put me third in a section, which I was sort of happy with, to be honest with you, because you know how, you know, just to try and keep in the top 10, that was always going to possibly be my drop result with the 2 wins and 2 seconds. So a 4th and a 5th, and that can always comes into play. So I was quite happy with the 3rd, but there was a little bit of mix there because I thought there was still a chance of, at one stage, maybe with 20 minutes to go, you know, you're looking at £13 size of them F1s there, 4 more fish, and you know you might have nicked it. So. But I was still come off the bank. I was reasonably happy, but there's always that slight disappointment in there.
One thing that obviously you can pick up on from that is you're talking about a 3rd still better than a 4th, better than a 5th, because there's not really such thing as a dropped result, is there? It always comes into play, like you said, so it needs to be as high as possible.
And it panned out that way, you know. If I'd have had a 4th, I wouldn't have made top 10. So.
And if it had been a 2nd or a 1st, then
exactly. But more importantly,
on to Day 5 for me.
So you were going on to Pollard, and like you said, there was a chance of like some iffy pegs or some little iffy areas, weren't there?
Some pegs on Pollard that you really didn't want to be on.
Yeah.
And when I looked at the draw and I was on peg 13,
that was one of them.
Yeah, my heart sank, to be honest. I couldn't believe it, because obviously I'm in the section you were in the previous day on 22, potential of the big weight. 24's in my section, which hadn't been drawn, but it's a good peg and was in on the last day. Johnny Jowett on that.
I know he doesn't flap or anything, but he actually cleaned the back of his van out. This was after the draw, and I was setting off to Twin Oaks, and I was like, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm going to clean my van out." Everything just got tipped out. I don't know what that was, but
put everything back in, nice and organised, sort myself out. But obviously we've got 22 where you were the day before.
Yeah.
Johnny Jowett's on 24, was absolutely brilliant and on a much better peg.
Yeah.
And then the other 3 pegs in my section are going onto the high bank, 15, 16, 17, 22, 24.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking,
you could have been looking at a 4th before could be even 4th before you even started. A 4th might actually have been a good result.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? Sort of 13 used to be a brilliant peg because you were in with the rubbish pegs, but now you're suddenly in with the good pegs. You're in a narrow bit of the lake.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't hold enough fish, does it?
Yeah.
Not as many skimmers now what you used to catch
That's right.
there. So I got to my peg and I'm still a bit like, what am I going to do? Obviously feeder to the island, like we spoke about, ground bait, maggots. I've gone for that type of approach again. Meat short, loose fed a bit of meat at 16 metres to my right, as far that way as I could go, because 14 isn't in, it's never in the festivals because it doesn't have an island chuck, and I thought that's putting me closer to where there's some fish, maybe that'll be a good line.
Yeah.
And then I fed a few hard 4mm in front of me, basically like I did on Trelawney at 13 metres.
Yeah.
And first 3 casts on the feeder had 3 fish, so great start, probably £6. Thinking, right, that's got me settled down, got me off to a start. I didn't expect to catch many on it, to be honest, because the lake's narrow there, it's open water to your right, and you just feel like they're going to push away.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. After an hour, I'd got 5 fish, I think. And I dropped on my long pole line where I'd fed pellets. And to be honest, that was the line where I've spent most of my match. I didn't catch much. I had a good run when I first went on it, 4 fish, but they're only little, sort of £1 to £1.5, them same fish you caught shallow. Yeah. Then it was a case of just nick an odd one, rest it, try my meat line. Never caught a fish on that. Yeah. Back on the feeder, I think I might have had 1 more. Back on my long pole with pellets, nick an odd one, maybe 2, maybe 3, then nothing. And I'm thinking, well, I felt like I was keeping myself ahead of everyone apart from Johnny Jowett. Yeah. And I sort of resigned myself to, I'm not going to win a section. It'd be lovely to get 5 section wins, but I wasn't going to get it. But fortunately, I didn't need a win. I needed to be 3rd. Yeah. I've kept going. There's a guy further down on peg 17. He was catching a few. I just plodded along basically. Tried meat short, not a bite. I've changed my long meat line to casters with an hour and a half to go. There was an odd fish started to not show so much, but get caught. They started to seem a bit more active. Yeah. Loose fed some casters to my right, nice and positive, thinking I could have a good finish shallow. Yeah. Fed that for half an hour, dropped in it, pulled my elastic out first cast, got one. Thought, right, big finish now. Yeah. Only managed 1 more on that, 1 more on my pellet line. So it's been hard work all day, but I have kept
35. Nicking a fish. 35.
I finished up with
brilliant weight from them, mate. That was on the day. The weights that have been coming off that high bank,
and to be honest, I'm one for when I'm fishing. I'm often looking about the lake, what's going on, and I've never concentrated so hard in my life. I never took my eyes off my float. I just watched what was happening, and I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to miss a bite. Couldn't afford to. Yeah. Finished up £35. Johnny Jowett opposite me's had £54. I think I was never going to beat him, but best of the rest. Brilliant. 2nd in the festival.
Absolutely fantastic.
And that's obviously put me on 4 wins, dropping a 2nd. And managed to win the festival. Pip and Brad Hancock, who was in your section, he had 4 wins, dropping a 2nd from last. So like I said, that dropper isn't ever really a dropper, as it always comes into play. And
I know you've had one or two. And I know you've had 1 or 2 seconds, haven't you? You've had, you know, second in festivals. And sometimes, you know, it's over the years. It's like there's just little things that happen in your fishing career that like can make the difference. You know, little things, just a bit of experience more than anything else. You know, and making little decisions. So, you know.
I mean, I remember years ago, before I stopped going to Whiteacres for a while, I come second on a festival there. Steve Ringer actually beat me.
Second in the Park Dean.
Yeah, second in the Park Dean. But the time Steve Ringer beat me, we had 35 points. We didn't get a perfect points. We had 3 wins and 2 seconds each.
Yeah.
And I remember getting beat that week on Jenny's. I was on peg 17 where you drew.
Yeah.
I got beat by 1 ounce. Oh, and that cost me the festival.
Yeah,
and it's like... You need that little bit of luck. That 1 ounce could have gone either way, and I could have won that festival. Stopped going for quite a while. I've been back the last 2 years in October for a week, and to be honest, I love it again. I've got a real buzz back for it. The fishing's different, but really, really enjoyable.
Yeah.
We're both.
We had a great week, didn't we?
Yeah,
we had a really
enjoyed
week,
it. Good company.
Yeah.
Good fishing.
Barry's been brilliant. He's been stopped with us all week.
Yeah.
You know,
looked after us with a packed lunch now and again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Chucked the burgers together.
Yeah. Cooked us a bit of food. While we sat and chilled out, really, didn't we? But yeah, great company for the week. Yeah. Great fishing. Yeah. Both going back in October now. Park Dean Festival. Can't wait for that. And
fantastic.
Finish up with this little beauty.
Made up for you.
I know you've got a few of these at home, haven't you?
Yeah.
From back in the day. So hopefully in October we'll be back. Another update. One of us will have this. Yeah. And possibly that other big trophy you can get there.
Exactly.
So remember, if you're enjoying all our videos, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Loads more of these match roundups to come. Lots of little hints and tips on videos as well. And we hope you've all enjoyed it.